Good morning, everyone. This is your Congressman Dave Joyce. Welcome to today's telephone town hall. This is an unprecedented time for our country and for the state of Ohio. It's very important that we continue to stay informed. Here on the line with me to help keep you informed about the coronavirus pandemic and the resources available to help small businesses who have been impacted by it are Goldberg from the Small Business Administration's Cleveland District Office, Kevin Boehner from the Ohio Chamber of Commerce, Cathy Walsh from Lakeland Community College's Small Business Development Center at Lakeland, Marty McGann from the Greater Cleveland Growth Partnership, Greg Myers from the Growth Partnership for Ashtabula County, and Karen Tercek from the Willoughby Western Lake County Chamber. I want to thank each of you for taking the time to engage on this call and for helping me keep the small business owners of Northeast Ohio informed during this difficult time. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to have each one of you briefly introduce yourselves, tell our callers what your official position is, and explain what you or your organization are doing to help Northeast Ohio small businesses during this corona outbreak. I will start with you, Gil.
Okay. As the Congressman said, my name is Gil Goldberg, and I'm the director of the Cleveland District Office of the U.S. Small Business Administration. The Cleveland District Office covers the northern 28 counties of Ohio, from the Pennsylvania line to the Indiana line. And our main goal right now is an all-hands-on-deck approach. We're here to make sure that small businesses are here now and here at the end. When the coronavirus outbreak subsides, we want to make sure that you're there with your doors opened or able to reopen and do business. We want to ensure that all small businesses have the funding now to get through this period and still be there. We have a number of programs which you could do to ensure that you're here. One is the economic injury loan, and that's up to $2 million, and that includes an upfront cash advance for $10,000 that you will get, and you don't have to repay that. We also have the PPP, or the Paycheck Protection Program, and that will be open for business on Friday, and the applications are done through a bank for that. Unlike the economic injury, that's done through our website, and that's up to $2 million, payable over 30 years, and you go to sba.gov/disaster and check on or click on economic injury, and that will take you through the application process, which has been completely redone since it came out 2 weeks ago and is very expeditious. I don't want to take up any more time with talking about the programs because I want to allow other people to comment, and then I'll handle everything else through questions if you don't mind, Congressman.
That'd be great, Joe. Thanks. Kevin?
First, I want to say thank you, Congressman Joyce, for having me on the call today. And second, I want to thank the business owners who are joining us. As the Congressman stated, my name is Kevin Boehner, and I'm the Director of Small Business and Workforce Policy for the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. Within this role, I staff our Ohio Small Business Council, which is comprised of small business owners throughout the state of Ohio with the stated mission of promoting and protecting the establishment, growth, and vitality of small business in Ohio. Certainly during these unprecedented times, the Ohio Chamber seeks to serve as a resource for business owners throughout the state, especially Northeast Ohio, providing them as much information as possible and connecting them with the appropriate resources available to them. I'm glad to be joined by the other hosts here, many of my colleagues, as we work closely with them from the U.S. Chamber, the Small Business Administration, our Metro Chamber Coalition, and local chambers of commerce. Again, I want to thank you for having me here, and I look forward to answering any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Cathy, how are things at Lakeland?
Oh, well, we are at home. Lakeland has pretty much cleared out, and we're operating remotely, but we have a great IT center, and they've done nothing but given us wonderful support so that we haven't skipped a beat in offering our services to the small business community. So I'm Cathy Walsh. I'm the director of the Small Business Development Center at Lakeland. The Ohio Small Business Development Center Network is a partner of the Small Business Administration, and we have advisors across the state who are trained by the SBA to help businesses through this crisis. So we've been receiving training and updates continuously throughout this process. So we are specifically helping with the economic injury disaster loan process. Our advisors have been working with a lot of businesses who just need questions answered, or they need guidance in getting through the process. So we've been staying in touch with the SBA, Gil's office mainly, and I just want to say the Cleveland District office has been wonderful as far as getting back to us when we have questions. So we're really working as a team in the state of Ohio to help small businesses through this, because we're going to need them when this is over. And so we want to make sure that they're all there and ready to open up their doors.
Well, that's for sure, Cathy. We're all in this together. And Marty, from the Greater Cleveland Growth Partnerships perspective, what do you have going on?
Yeah, thanks, Congressman. I appreciate the opportunity to be on the call with you and the fellow panelists. Marty McGann from the Greater Cleveland Partnership. I'm the Senior VP of Senior Vice President of Advocacy and Strategic Initiatives at the GCP. And for folks that aren't aware, our Greater Cleveland Partnership is the largest chamber of commerce, largest regional chamber of commerce in the country, and largest business association in the state of Ohio. We've been involved in this issue from a number of different fronts. First, from an advocacy perspective, talking with the Congressman's office and other leading advocacy folks at the federal, state, and local level on different issues to help inform some of the decision making that they've made on the various stimulus bills and incentives that have been put in place. We're also surveying our members as a business association. So we've had over 200 members reply back to our survey on how their businesses have been impacted, and our business retention and expansion team is talking to those folks and helping them work through their issues and helping connect them to resources similar to the ones that we'll talk about today in the federal stimulus bill. But it's also helping us inform what some of that policy making can be going forward as we learn what the challenges are. Should there be other incentives or other bills down the road, we can help figure out how to tie folks into those resources as well and how to inform those. And then finally, we're also operating an employer site. So while a number of businesses have been put into challenging circumstances, there are some businesses that are expanding in our region. So over the course of the last 10 days, we've loaded our website, which I'll talk about more in greater detail later, but we've got 40 employers or so on our site that are hiring right now, that are many of which are particularly impacted by this crisis and need to expand, like Purell or like Gojo Industries or the grocery stores, et cetera. So as some industries are dislocated, how do we connect those folks to other resources and try to do the best that we can to keep the economy going in this difficult time? So that's what we're doing. Again, thank you, Congressman, and look forward to the rest of the conversation.
Great, thank you. Greg Myers from Growth Partnership for Ashtabula County.
Congressman, good morning, and thank you very much for having me a part of this panel this morning. It's certainly challenging times that I don't think any of us have seen in our careers before. So in many instances, particularly in Ashtabula County, we're learning as we go. But again, my name is Greg Myers. I'm the Executive Director for the Growth Partnership for Ashtabula County. We are the countywide economic development agency. And in that capacity, we're serving businesses across all industry sectors and of all sizes, really being a partner with them to provide resources to help them in instances like this through challenging times, but outside of times like this to help them grow their businesses and be successful. So for us, at this time, what we're trying to do is be a resource provider, connecting them with information around the SBA programs, connecting them with information and advice around engaging with their vendors and other partners around dealing with things like lease payments, dealing with loans and issues like that. So again, trying to just be an interface for those businesses, to provide them resources, to provide, quite honestly, just reassurance that they have partners out there to help support them through these challenging times.
Well, fantastic. And my friend Karen, how are you, and how are things going in Willoughby, Western Lake County Chamber?
Pretty good, Congressman Joyce. Very busy. Thank you for inviting me on this call this morning. I'm Karen Tercek, president of the Willoughby, Western Lake County Chamber of Commerce. And the Willoughby Western Lake County Chamber is a resource and a conduit of growth for approximately about 550 businesses in Western Lake County. With the development of the coronavirus, we're also providing a lot more information regarding loans and state and federal programs that are going to assist our small businesses through this very difficult time. Whether it's an essential business or a temporarily closed business, we are helping them to navigate this uncharted territory with sharing resources from the SBA. And I have to say, Cathy Walsh has just been a great partner through this as we're referring more and more of our small businesses to her office. We also, from about 2.5 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago when this started, we immediately changed all of our events into Zoom webinars and teleconferences for our members, because we really want them to make sure that they knew that we were there for them, we were a resource for them, and we were going to be helping them through this. So that has been helpful. We're doing something every week with our members. Some of the things that we've done is best practices in the workplace, especially with the essential businesses. We'll be doing HR practices during the coronavirus, how folks are navigating through that as an essential business, and also addressing cash flow issues. We, too, also conducted a survey almost 3 weeks ago and immediately sent out the results to our local and our state officials so that they would know what the pulse was, at least in Lake County and a good portion of Lake County with some of our businesses. And I'm sure that's changed since then. Since that survey, I mean, what we got initially was 50% of our members were experiencing a decrease in sales, and I know that it's much higher than that now. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate all of you joining us. I can tell you that the Ohio delegation, working in concert with the governor, we have our briefings together, and Rob and Sharon and the whole congressional delegation. And you got to give a shout out to the governor, because I think he's managed to set Ohio a little bit ahead of the curve now from where this is, from all the good work that he's done. And we're all in it working together, trying to make sure that you all have the resources and small businesses have the resources to be able to get through this together. But I want to thank you all for taking the time to join me in today's telephone town hall to provide this information and the resources that we have available to help our small businesses. Matter of fact, the small business is a lifeline of the Buckeye economy. And as of 2018, 99% of all Ohio businesses are small businesses and employed 2.2 million Ohioans. However, this COVID-19 outbreak is taking a heavy toll on these businesses, those who own them, and the workers they employ. And while we continue working to ensure the health and safety of Ohioans during this unprecedented time, it's critical that we also protect our small businesses and ensure that they have the support they need. And we want to get started, and I want to take a moment to let you know how you can ask and participate and ask a question. To ask a question anytime throughout the call, press *3. Once you do that, you'll be put in a queue in order to ask a question. Please keep in mind that on these calls, we get hundreds of people who would like to ask questions. We will do our best to answer as many as we can. While we give more callers the chance to join us, I want to give a brief overview of the 3 relief packages that Congress has passed over the past couple of weeks and the provisions in them that relate to small businesses. The first relief package passed by Congress provided $1 billion in funding to enable the Small Business Administration, or SBA, to provide an estimated $7 billion in loans to help small businesses and nonprofits that have suffered financial losses as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. In addition, it provided $20 million to help SBA administer these loans. The second package passed by Congress provides 100% refundable tax credit to employers with regard to paid sick and family leave that employers must grant to employees to address employment interruptions related to COVID-19. The third package that was passed by Congress created the Paycheck Protection Program. Gil had mentioned it earlier. Businesses and 501c3s with less than 500 employees will be eligible for this new program, which will provide loans that are 100% guaranteed by the SBA. These loans can be used for payroll costs, group health care benefits, employee salaries, interest on any mortgage obligation, rent, utilities, and any other debt obligations incurred before February 15, 2020. There's a lot to dissect from those 3 relief packages, so today's telephone town hall is about making sure small businesses know what resources they have been made available, how to access them, and how they will help get through this challenging time. Now, it looks like we have a good number of callers on the line, so let's get started. And I got some questions here that we've gotten over the time that there's been some consensus on, so I'm going to address them specifically and start with you, Gil, Mr. Goldberg. Why don't we begin with you, if you don't mind? Can you walk our callers through what the Small Business Administration's Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program? What are the eligibility requirements? How does the application process work? And if approved, how long does it take to get the loan to the small business who applied for it?
Well, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program is one of two programs we have now to help small business. The other one is the PPP, as the Congressman mentioned, the Paycheck Protection Program, which we could talk about a little later. But right now, the Economic Injury Program is something that you apply online directly to the SBA. You go to sba.gov/disaster and then click on Economic Injury, and the application appears there. And as I briefly mentioned at the outset, we're in the third iteration of that application. The first one was a very laborious, typical SBA application for a typical loan. But this is not a typical situation, nor is this a typical loan. So we streamlined it with a second iteration, and now we're in our third iteration. And I just want to relate to you a quick story about the third iteration. I got a call yesterday from a lady who owned a business, a woman-owned business, and she said she applied 2 weeks ago initially for an economic injury loan, and she got a number, and she hasn't heard anything since. I said, well, why don't you go back into the program, reapply, and also apply for a new part of the program, which would give you a $10,000 upfront cash advance while you wait to get the money from your loan request, and that $10,000 doesn't have to be repaid. And I said, when you go in, since you did it the first time, why don't you go into this third iteration application and give me a call afterward and let me know how it compared to the first time. So I came in this morning, and there was a voicemail on my phone that said she did it. I just wanted to get back to you, Mr. Goldberg, and let you know how things worked out. It only took me 10 minutes to apply, and I applied for the $10,000 forgivable cash advance at the same time, and I immediately got an application number. So that tells me that it's working a lot better. 10 minutes is not a lot of time to fill out an application. I would encourage people to look at that site. It's up to $2 million. You could get up to a 30-year term to pay it off, and the interest rate is 3.75%. Small businesses as well as nonprofits are eligible, and basically, if you want to take a broad definition of small business, anyone that employs up to 500 employees, and it can be for people that are self-employed, gig economy companies as well. We're trying to be all-encompassing in the application process to make sure that as many businesses that can apply are applying and get help.
Gil, do you have the website for that, or where they should go to? Is it just SBA.gov?
SBA.gov/disaster, and then click on, when you're in the disaster website, click on economic injury.
Okay, thank you. Karen, what advice and guidance do you have for a business that has been deemed essential to help protect their employees and keep them safe and healthy during this pandemic?
That's a very good question. So about a week ago, I was getting some questions from some of our essential companies that are working out there in terms of, they're not real large companies, so they didn't have structured best practices in place, and they really wanted to be able to get more information on what are some of those best practices. Again, this is uncharted territory. You know, what can we be doing to protect our employees and protect us as we produce these products that are essential? So I held a teleconference with a number of our manufacturers, some small, some large. Wanted to definitely get the large ones in because they have a lot of these best practices in place. And a lot of good things that were shared. First of all, keep your doors open if you can throughout the whole facility. That way people don't need to be grabbing the handles. Only one person in the restroom at a time. Wipe down after that person has left the restroom for the next person. Just the constant cleaning of restrooms, vending machines, elevator systems, desks. one of the large companies in our area had signs throughout the whole facility saying, just emphasizing the social distancing. And her comment was, it's amazing how many people just, even with the signs, it's like, are you forgetting 6 feet or more? But I think the signage does help. If you have room in your cafeteria or you have a big meeting place, only 1 chair per table, so that when employees are eating, they are reminded that they have to eat by themselves at that table for social distancing purposes, or they can go to the car and eat. Some of our manufacturers, especially manufacturers, were having a challenge with with cleaning down the porous metal, and we were able to find, with the help of one of my colleagues, we were able to find a facility nearby that does provide a cleaner for the porous metal, because the porous metal will rust with bleach. So those were just some of the different things that came up in our conversation. I know when we hold the HR webinar, and one of our attorney members that are on my board, she's going to be speaking about the different HR issues. I know that there were some things that they were asking about regarding that too. FMLA policy, people being sick, calling off sick. And I think that one of our companies, member companies, had a really good comment about that, because people are fearful, they're scared about going to work if they have to go to work. And her response was, you're helping. I mean, you are helping to contribute to making sure that everything is going as it should, and that we're producing what we need to do for our nation. And you accepted this job, and this is your responsibility. So it is difficult. It's very challenging, I think, on both sides, the employer side and also the employee side. But again, uncharted territory, and we continue to move forward and through this and share best practices.
Yeah, I got a call from somebody who was inspected yesterday as to whether or not they should be. And after they got all through the inspection, the inspector said, hey, you really have gotten all this stuff down. Can you supply this to can we take this and send it to other folks? So it's important we get that information out there. And Cathy, I know the Small Business Development Center at Lakeland has years of experience helping small businesses succeed. What tools are you using to keep small businesses informed during this time? And what resources are available at the center that can be helpful to them as they work to navigate this pandemic?
Yeah, thank you. We are using every tool available to us. Of course, the individual centers are using their social media, email blasts, website posts, LinkedIn. We're using all the social media available to us. We also have
where could somebody go to find the nearest one? Is there a site that you can direct to?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a couple of websites. That's okay. I'm going to give you a couple of websites, so if people want to write these down. The first one is America's SBDC, and so that's plural, americasSBDC.org. You can go onto that website, and there's a lot of really good up-to-the-minute information about a whole host of areas regarding this pandemic. You can also go in there and search by zip code for your local SBDC and find them quickly that way. I would also recommend going to a website, OhioSBDC.org, so OhioSBDC.org. And on there, you can also find a listing of all of the centers around the state. And you can also find all the trainings that we're offering through our SBDCs that are all virtual now. So you could attend one that Cincinnati's having if it's a topic that's important to you. People from all over the state can attend trainings that we're having. So that's a great place to go on and see what everybody's offering. So I would steer people towards OhioSBDC.org. And on that website, if you find the location and click on the location nearest you, it will automatically bring up a request for counseling form. So you just fill that out, takes a minute, and somebody from that center will get back to you. and we have increased our staff so that we are being responsive and getting back to people, hopefully within 24 hours, sometimes sooner. So I would recommend doing the registration. We need that information to make sure we have a good understanding of who you are and what your business is all about, and then we will get back to you and talk to you one-on-one. So one of the best tools we have is our advisors, like I mentioned before, because our advisors have been trained by the SBA in this process. We're also getting information from the state of Ohio. So we, as well as everybody else here, are trying to stay on top of things. So even if it's not something that we personally have a lot of expertise in, we know who to refer you to, and we can help guide you in the right direction. So I want to also mention that if you see something funny or something sounds too good to be true, to give us a call and we can help look into it. There are a lot of scams going on, of course, during times like these, unfortunately. So if nothing else, if you get some information and you say, hey, this sounds like a good way to go, but I'm not sure if this is legit or not, again, please contact your local SBDC office or the SBA or the Chamber of Commerce. Any of the resources on here today really want to help you avoid falling into any pitfalls as well. So please reach out regardless of the topic.
Well, thank you very much. And we'll make sure to also post those sites as well. That's some great information. And Kevin, if you will, can you explain what the Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services Voluntary Layoff Aversion Program, Shared Work Ohio, how does it help employers retain trained staff during these times to reduce business activity, and what are the eligibility requirements?
Yes, thank you, Congressman. That's a great question. I know I've had many of my small business members ask about it because I know that during this time they had a tough time finding employees, and now they find a qualified one, and now the workload is reduced, so it's tough to find that balance. So under a Shared Work Ohio plan, the participating employer reduces affected employees' hours in a uniform manner. The participating employee works the reduced hours each week, and then ODJFS provides eligible individuals an unemployment insurance benefit proportionate to their reduced hours. So that combination of reduced hours plus JFS providing some unemployment insurance should allow for employers to at least keep their employees during this kind of reduced business activity. Ohio employers may apply if they meet the following criteria. They have at least two employees are affected by this that do not work on a seasonal, temporary, or intermittent basis. They are current on all Ohio unemployment insurance reporting, contributions, reimbursements, interests, and penalties due. And then the last criteria is they agree to the program requirements. So that's kind of an overview of the program itself. I know there's a lot more there, and I can certainly provide more information based off of JFS's website there.
Is there a website that the people can look to?
Yes, hold on one second. Let me pull the website itself. It would be jfs.ohio.gov/OUIO/SharedWorkOhio. And then that'll provide an overview, and then it includes an employer frequently asked question section as well as employee info.
That's great. Thank you very much. And Marty, while a lot of industries and businesses are having to scale back right now, there are also some that are stepping up their production of essential goods, such as hand sanitizer equipment, needs by professionals. I think you touched a little bit on this before. On the TV screen above, it had Athersys maybe coming up with something that'll actually beat the virus. That's a biotech company that's in the northeastern Ohio, obviously. How have you been helping businesses that are looking to expand right now, and what resources are available to them?
Yeah, again, thanks, Congressman. I would direct folks to a website that we've organized around a lot of our work around over the course of the past few weeks. It's GCP in Gear, so GCPINGEAR. At that site, we have a lot of different resources, some of which I talked about earlier. We're taking sort of daily updates from what's happening at the federal, state, and local level. We've got a short summary of the bill that the Congressman passed last week. And a lot of different resources there, but specifically with companies looking to expand, this is the area where we've put the employers now hiring, and we've got 40 plus employers at this point that are looking to grow in this environment that are forced to in some ways because of where our economy has gone. And that's been a good resource for us to, again, connect folks that are and organizations that are unfortunately having to lay off a lot of folks with immediate resources to try to put them back to work as quick as possible. So we've really found that to be a good place to do it. We're also, and I think it's kind of related to your question, Congressman, we're also working with Magnet, the manufacturing growth advocacy group locally, and the state of Ohio MEP program, Manufacturing Extension Partnership, to really help some of our manufacturers pivot their lines of work towards the personal protective equipment that we've all been hearing so much about, so this PPE. So we know of companies in Northeast Ohio that aren't doing what they used to be able to do as much, or aren't needed to do as much of what they used to do, that can pivot into helping provide masks, face shields, et cetera, that are desperately needed. And if you're following along with the governor's daily press conferences, he's been talking regularly about our need to stay, to have as much of this personal protective equipment as possible. So we've been helping some of our companies through Magnet and through the Ohio Manufacturers Association pivot towards those areas. So I think that's related in part is you see some industries kind of gearing towards what the immediate need is in our community. So don't have anything up on our website about that right now, but I know there's some resources at OMA on that. But if you're looking for some of those immediate resources on employers that are hiring or how to help, it's on that GCP in Gear website. And also related to your last question, Congressman, I think there was even a provision in the bill last week that you passed with your colleagues about the job sharing program or short-time compensation program, where the federal government's picking up a good portion of the state program that Kevin just outlined to help states address this need. And Ohio is really out front and setting up their own, but is really coming in with some additional federal investment to make it really work, and to make sure that Ohioans don't feel a disproportionate impact of having to pay for that themselves.
Yeah, and one thing, I've always been the one that we got to bring this manufacturing back from China to begin with. But if this has taught us anything, we certainly need to get that personal protective equipment manufacturing back here in our country and take care of ourselves first. Greg, you worked in economic development for 20 years now. What advice do you have for businesses as they put together a plan to get through this challenging time? And should they be looking to see if any of their revenue streams have potential for growth, or ask their landlord about deferring rent, or try to reduce spending? And should they be talking to their lenders about to see if loan modifications are even possible?
Yeah, those are all great questions and excellent points. So thank you for bringing them up. I think first and foremost, I want to express, as others have, that companies need to know that they're not going through this alone. That there are resource partners here to help them, whether that's at the federal level through offices like yourself, or whether that's through SBA partners at the local and regional level through the SBDCs. So I think first and foremost, I want to make sure that they understand that there are organizations here to help them, and they're not going through this alone. Steps that I think I would advise businesses and even nonprofits to take at this point are things like really what the heart of your question, sort of have a plan. I think it's important for us not to sit and be reactive as businesses and overwhelmed by the challenges that we're facing, but really roll up our sleeves and start to do some planning, if you haven't done that already, to understand how the market changes are likely impacting your business here over at least the next few weeks to the next month or so. And then communicating that plan and with your customers and with your employees about what steps you're taking to address the challenges of the crisis and your vision for the near term, and reassuring them that you have a plan. I think that's critical. The other points that you raised on the actual business operational side, I think, yes, it's very important for them to engage with vendors and suppliers. So with your landlords, with utility providers, with suppliers, and negotiate, if you need to, for things like payment deferrals, new terms, whatever you need to survive through this time. I think it behooves you to engage with those vendors, suppliers, ask the questions, ask for help, because you never know where they may go in terms of helping you get through this challenging time. The other thing I think is
together, so it doesn't hurt to ask.
Absolutely. The worst case is not asking, because you never know what they're going to say. And I think, as many people have said already, there's a number of organizations recognizing that they need to be flexible and they need to be as accommodating as they can to help everybody get through this, so that we come out as strong as we can on the other side. Things like planning for cash flow and utilizing some of the supportive programs that are available, such as those that were mentioned, the disaster loan and the paycheck protection programs. It's really important to make sure that we're looking at cash flow, managing that, controlling our spending. Obviously, some of that's being done naturally for us at this time, but looking at things like discretionary spending, managing their receivables, getting rid of unnecessary costs like contract labor that may not be needed as essential during this particular time. Excuse me. The other thing I think is to look for opportunities, and some of those were mentioned, like companies retooling to get into making medical supplies, PPE. The one example I think regionally that we've heard about is distillers making hand sanitizer. Being in the heart of the viticulture industry in Ohio, that one's a really interesting one for us to see how creative some of the businesses have been to help address some of the challenges that we're facing today. Then the other is, I think, if possible, get involved locally with organizations that need assistance. If you have the capability and resources to be able to get involved with local food banks and others that are serving your employee base and serving your community, I think is important too. And then the other is looking for business opportunity. In challenging times, there can be opportunities for certain business segments. And one of the interesting ones, I had a conversation with one of our local companies, and they had a heat treat. There's a local manufacturing company, and their heat treat supplier was very nervous because the owner didn't have a succession plan in place, and they weren't sure they were going to get through this. And it presented an opportunity for that local manufacturer to actually engage in a discussion about an acquisition of that heat treat service provider, because that's so critical to their business. So one example just that we've heard of in the last couple of weeks where businesses are even looking for opportunities to, in these challenging times. But I think all of those things we're encouraging our companies in Ashtabula County to do, and I think that applies universally.
This is Gil Goldberg at the SBA. Could I jump in for 1 second? The congressman
Gil, I was coming to you about one thing, because we talked earlier about the economic injury disaster loan program, but several business owners who need additional capital to cover the cost of retaining employees. So while you're talking about this, can you also walk all our callers through the new Paycheck Protection Program and how it provides relief, and then whatever else you were going to say? Feel free.
Okay. Thank you. I'd like to do that in a minute. I remember, Congressman, a few minutes ago you brought up the question of loan modification, and I just want to re-emphasize that in two ways. First, with non-SBA loans, if you have a non-SBA loan from a commercial bank, go in and ask them for a deferment. The regulators have encouraged banks to provide a deferment to businesses by stating that they will not criticize a loan that is deferred. So go in and ask, if it's a non-SBA loan, for a deferment. If you have an SBA 7A loan, the banks have been instructed to immediately defer the payments for 6 months on those loans. And in addition to that, the banks have been instructed that we, the SBA, will make the monthly payments on those loans, principal and interest, for the next 6 months. So you don't have that burden of catching up on those principal and interest payments for the next 6 months when they're deferred. Because usually what banks do when interest and principal are deferred, they add it to the end of the loan and you still have to pay it off. Here, we're going to be making the monthly payments for you. We've instructed the banks to let us know the monthly payment of principal and interest that each bank has for each borrower, and we will make that for the borrower. So that's that's a real plus on the program and a big debt relief for the SBA borrower. Now with the other program we have is the PPP, or Paycheck Protection Program. That's basically a forgivable loan, and what you do, I think the Congressman mentioned the variables that you could include in this for forgiveness. You could go up to 8 weeks for payroll, provided that no individual payroll, including benefits, exceeds $100,000 on an annualized basis. So you get your payroll for an 8-week period. You also are able to include in this, as the Congressman said, rent, mortgage interest, and utilities. However, the mortgage interest, the rent payment, and the utilities cannot exceed 25% of the total amount that you're asking for, which means that salaries and benefits have to be at least 75% of the total forgivable loan. And you do this by applying to a bank, and the bank will handle the application for you. It's open to all small businesses qualify, have 500 employees or less, as well as nonprofits.
And that's any bank that they can go to?
Any bank. Just about every bank in Ohio, as well as credit unions, works with the U.S. Small Business Administration, and they all have now delegated authority to handle this in a very expeditious way. So you could expect a fairly quick turnaround on this.
And Congressman, if I can jump in there, this is Marty from GCP. The U.S. Department of Treasury late yesterday put out some guidance on this. I think I saw a tweet from your office on it, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
This
is a partnership
for this.
This is a partnership
Treasury.
Between Treasury and SBA.
Yeah.
And
but for folks on the line that want a quick resource on it, going to treasury.gov, there's right in that top bar, the red bar on the screen, there's information about the Paycheck Protection loans that came out just yesterday, sort of direct Q&A or FAQs for borrowers, lenders, and what that application will look like, so you can start to get a sense of what information you'll need to bring with you when you start that conversation with your bank.
You could go in. Yeah, you could go in for more than the 8 weeks salary and benefits and the interest on mortgage payments, the rent, and utilities. But anything above that will not be forgiven and will be a 2-year term loan that you will have to pay back.
That's great. I want to remind everyone who's on, they can participate and ask a question. To ask a question at any time throughout the call, press *3. Once you do that, you'll be put in a queue in order to ask a question. And I know some of you have been waiting for a long time now. We'll start off here with, let's go with Jeff. Hello, Jeff?
Hi, this is Jeff.
Yeah, how are you doing? Could you ask you have a question here? I know you've been on the hold for a long time, and I apologize. Well, but it's glad that we can see if we can answer your question.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you putting me in line for this. We have lots of questions, but I'll focus on the one that we asked on the line. I've been in contact with our banker who's through Huntington, and she's advised me that they're still unsure on a lot of the ins and outs of these different offerings through the SBA and other agencies. The concern she had is that she was unsure whether or not applying for example, the $10,000 grant money, if that would somehow disqualify us from other programs. So she has advised us at this time to just kind of hold fast and wait until the SBA's had time to come up with their standard operating procedures. But obviously, we still have bills coming up. Our landlords have not been so quick to help us. They still expect their rent, which I understand. Everybody's struggling through this. But we're in a position where we can't charge our members because we've been told to close per the mandate. We own 2 fitness facilities, and we are no longer charging our members because if we can't give them a service, we don't feel it's right to take their money. So we're just kind of in a holding pattern, trying to figure out what's going on, and we were hoping we could get some clarification on whether or not applying for certain programs are going to disqualify us from others.
Okay. Under the PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program, you could only apply to that program once. You cannot go back in a second time or a third time, at least right now the way the legislation is. So what I would look at is, does that forgiveness under the PPP program, which includes, as we said, salaries for up to 8 weeks, rent, mortgage interest, and utilities, if that is, as they use in the vernacular, an accounting term, if that's a bigger nut for you, I would then the $10,000 forgiveness under the economic injury loan, I would go in to the PPP program and work, as you say, through your bank, which is Huntington. All the banks in Ohio are open for the program, which will start accepting applications Friday on April 3rd. So if that's the bigger nut, I would go into that program. If you need, after you do that on April 3rd, you go into that program, if you need additional funding to buy inventory, to make insurance payments on your business, on the equipment, whatever you have, other lease payments that you have, then I would consider applying, but only after you apply for the Paycheck Protection Program on April 3rd. I would go in to the Economic Injury Loan Program through our website, sba.gov/disaster. You can click on economic injury and go in and apply for the other expenses that are not covered under the PPP program. But I would do the PP program first if that's the bigger nut than the $10,000. If the $10,000 is more than what you under the PPP, go into economic development and get the $10,000 up front. That's forgiven, and then apply for the rest of the money that you need. Also, the interesting thing about the economic injury program is if you go out and say, for the next 3 or 4 months, I need X dollars, and we're still under severe economic injury from the coronavirus, you could go back in and apply for additional funds under the economic injury program, as long as you don't go above a total aggregate outstanding of $2 million. That's the cap of the program. So you could go in a couple times under the economic injury program, and that's something you cannot do under the PPP program.
But to be clarified, you could apply for both.
It would seem that way right now, but I would look to see which program benefits me the most, apply for that program as soon as you're able, and then after you do that, go in and apply for the other program.
Okay, well, I'm sure Jeff would appreciate that. We have some of the online ones, and I know Patricia Snyder, she sent in a question. She owns a small business in Ashtabula Harbor. She doesn't have any employees, and her question is that for small businesses with employee, the answers are for that. Is there any help or in a way of a grant or low-interest loan if you're a sole employee?
Yes, you could go into the economic injury program and apply as a sole proprietorship and be eligible for the up to 30-year loan repayment and an interest rate of 3.75%. So the economic injury loan is the way to go.
Okay, our next caller. here is Peter. Peter Sullivan?
Yeah, good morning. Peter
Sir?
Sullivan here from, I work for Walsh Jesuit High School in Cuyahoga Falls. And I've applied for the disaster loan through the SBA. However, I've got three questions here. The first is, can I amend it for the $10,000 advance? And then it sounds like there's not certainty, but my second question is if I take that advance, can I still apply for the PPP? And then the third question is when will the PPP application be ready? I think the answer is this Friday, April 3rd. But I was trying to, probably like the rest of the world, get in front of the work involved with getting that application in early and into our bankers. So can I amend to get the $10,000? Can I get both the loan and the PPP, and when will the PPP be ready? And thank you for holding this call today. It's very valuable. Thank you to all.
Okay. With your question about getting the $10,000 and amending your economic injury loan, you could definitely do that. The way you do that is go back into the website and just start the application process anew, totally new. As I said, this women-owned business owner told me that it only took her 10 minutes to do the total application, which includes a part for the $10,000 advance. So you can go in and amend your, I wouldn't say amend it, just do a whole new application. And that's the right way to do it, and apply for the $10,000 at the same time. And it looks like you should be able to also go in and use the PPP, provided you don't double dip. Mm-hmm. In other words, claim the same salaries at both on both programs, and same expenses under both programs.
And then third,
Great.
The application's online. I think it's at that treasury.gov website.
Right, the application is there, and that's the one you should use and submit to your bank. And by the way, the application on the Treasury website has the seal of the U.S. Small Business Administration on it.
That's good to know. We have another online question here from Joanna Tercek. I'm an LLC. I have no employees, just an independent contractor. What type of help can I get as an LLC that has no employees? I'm still getting income, but it's drastically less. I wasn't sure if the 7A loan would apply for me.
The 7A loan does apply, but for sole proprietors, independent contractors like yourself, the site will be open to them on April 10th, not April 3rd.
Okay, so which one's open on the 3rd and which one's open on the 10th then?
Okay. For small businesses that are not sole proprietors, the site is open April 3rd. For small businesses that are sole proprietors, the site is open on the 10th. Let me just modify that a bit. I made April 3rd, small businesses and sole proprietorships can come in on April 3rd. Independent contractors and self-employed individuals can apply starting April 10th. So sole proprietorships and small businesses, April 3rd. Independent contractors and self-employed individuals on April 10th.
All right. Our next call here. Mary?
Thank you.
Sure.
I have a salon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi. I have a salon. I've been open for 34 years. I've already applied for the economic injury loan, and the largest portion of what I need is the Paycheck Protection Loan. I am not able to open, obviously. We've been closed since March 18th, and I'm not sure if the May 1st is going to allow us to open or not. But in applying for the Paycheck education loan. Since I'm not able to open, am I going to be able to apply for that? And is that going to be forgivable because we're commission-based plus salary for the front desk?
You faded out at one point in your question. Can you just...
I've been open for 34 years. I am a salon with 19 employees, and we've not been able to open per Governor DeWine's mandate since March the 18th. And I've already applied for the disaster loan, which will help, with the mortgage and utilities, et cetera. But as far as the paycheck protection SBA, I'm wondering if I'm able to apply for that since we're not able to be open until, not sure whether May 1st will apply to us, but we are commission-based plus salary for the front desk. And is that going to be forgivable?
I think you could go ahead and apply as long as you don't double dip. The salaries and commissions that you applied for in the economic injury loan, you can't reapply and get paid twice for those. Also, you may want to consider if that is greater than, if 8 weeks of salary is greater than $10,000. If it's not, I would go back into the economic injury loan and reapply, take that 10 minutes, and when you reapply, apply for the $10,000 forgivable cash advance at the beginning of the process. And that $10,000 cash advance is paid before the economic decision is taken whether to approve or not approve the loan. So in the event that you're not approved under the economic injury, you still don't have to pay back the $10,000. It's just a outright grant at the beginning of the process, whether you're approved or not for the economic injury loan.
Well, I appreciate that. One of the questions we have here online that I'm sure that either Cathy or Marty they might be able to add to, or even Kevin here, is I've never had to fill out forms like this before. Am I able to get help filling out these important forms?
Yes, I can tell you at the SBDC that is almost exclusively what we've been doing besides just answering questions about the programs in general. We've sat on the phone with our clients and walked through while they're filling out the application. So whatever assistance they need, that's what we are assisting with on the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. So through any SBDC, yes, you can get assistance on that process.
And they do a very good job. I got a call yesterday from an older gentleman that he and his wife have a charter boat business in Lake Erie, and he was very scared when he first called me. I referred him to the SBDC. The SBDC walked him through the process. He called me back and said it was just miraculous how much help he got from the SBDC in going through each block on the application process, and he was very thankful. They do a really good job.
And Cathy, you did it. You gave out before the website for that and how people can find their local one. Would you mind doing that again for some of the callers who may not have been on them?
Sure. The easiest, the local one is ohiosbdc.org. ohiosbdc.org. And you can look under locations. There's a tab called locations and find the one closest to you. Click on that. It'll open up a portal where you can register for counseling. You go in there and register either as a new client or as a repeat client if you've used us before. Either way, we will see that immediately once you register. And I know through our office, we are getting back to people within 24 hours and oftentimes it's same day.
Okay.
Yeah, similarly, Congressman, we're helping folks as much as we can through our process as well here at GCP, so folks can reach out to us and we can help them individually or connect them with the right resources they can.
Yeah, Congressman, this is Greg. That's the same for Ashtabula County. Any businesses that would need assistance in moving through that application process, we're happy to help. If we don't have the direct answers, we'll make sure we put them in touch with the appropriate folks who can answer their questions.
I will also say the same thing for the Willoughby West Lake County Chamber of Commerce. That's what we've been doing every day, is directing our members any questions that we can't answer. We direct them to the resources that they need to.
Well, that's fantastic, and you all do such tremendous job helping folks, and this is the time when everybody needs help. Okay, one last question here we get from online that seems to be a redundant question throughout is there any, Marty, maybe you got an answer for this. Is there any financial relief or reimbursement for small businesses who have employees lessen their hours, or are they laid off due to a drop in business?
Yeah, I think that's in part a little bit of what Kevin was talking about earlier with the State of Ohio program. I mean, there is obviously for individuals who've been laid off, there's enhanced unemployment benefits as part of the package, and there is sort of as you step down the hours, short-term compensation that could be married with unemployment benefits. So I think there are some benefits. There are some financial resources to individuals who are struggling through this process as well. And I know another thing that didn't come up on this call, but kind of another thing to buy you a little bit of time, is some of the work that was in the bill around the delay in when employer payroll taxes are due. So payroll taxes that would have otherwise been due have been backed up at least a year, if not longer, as a result of the federal bill. So I think those are other ways to try to bring financial resources into businesses that have been negatively impacted through this period. So we're giving them a little bit of a grace period to push through this.
Well, great. We might have time for one more call, so I'm going to hit let's see here, who's next in line? Pam. Pam, are you on?
I am. Good morning, Congressman. How are you?
I'm well. Yourself?
I'm hanging in there. Hanging in there.
Great.
So I have a question.
You have a question for our panel?
I do. I have submitted an online application through SBA, and I did get an OMB number. And my question is, how do I follow up, and what kind of time frame should I expect to hear some kind of result?
First of all, if I could ask you a question first. When did you get your number?
Today is Monday.
Okay. And when did you apply?
Monday. I mean, I got the number once you do the application, the OMB control number. I got it the moment I did the application. And I think I heard someone else say that it only took like 5-10 minutes, and that is true. It's a quick process online.
And did you also apply for the $10,000 advance?
I did. I checked that box also.
Excellent. The only way you're able to check on your application right now is if you call the service center, the 1-800 number, and you'll probably be in a long queue. So I would say just put it on hold and mute. Listen to the music while you do something. You're in that
right
there.
Is there a time frame right now where they're producing the applications? Like, what would be a reasonable time frame for me to wait before I need to follow up?
I would say give it a week.
Okay.
I would say because the volume is unbelievable.
I can imagine it is, and I certainly appreciate the volume of folks that we have here in our in the calls today, and these questions that have come in. Unfortunately, we only had an hour, and so I need to wrap it up today. But first off, I want to thank you all for the time. Again, Mr. Goldberg, Mr. Boehner, Ms. Walsh, Mr. McGann, Mr. Myers, and Ms. Tercek for joining me today and help me provide the small businesses of Ohio's 14th Congressional District with important, much-needed information during this pandemic. To conclude, I'd like to ask each of you what you think are the most important takeaways from all the information and resources. I know we only touched on a few questions, but what advice do you have for small business owners as they work to navigate this difficult time?
Okay. My advice from an SBA standpoint would be look at the two programs we have out there right now. The one you apply through the bank, the Paycheck Protection Program, and look at the economic injury and see which one best fits your need, and then apply for that one first, and then if you need additional funding, see if that could be handled under the economic injury program, or you want to do payroll under the PPP. But remember, under the PPP, you could only go in there once. Under the economic injury, you could go back in if you need additional funds, as long as you don't go over the $2 million level.
Well, that's great. Kevin, I'm sorry we didn't get enough out of you. The state of Ohio is doing a great job. You have any takeaways for folks?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would agree with Gil with those two programs coming from SBA. But one thing that I would like to make sure the callers are aware of is through the Ohio Chamber, we've set up a coronavirus business resource page on our main page. So at ohiochamber.com, right in the center of the page, it'll bring you to a web page that has an update on. We update it daily, constantly, with everything going on from the CARES Act, so things going on at the federal level, to every executive order that has an impact on business, all of the programs that we've talked about on this call, any updates there from the Treasury, from SBA. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for a business owner to go in and look and just get a snapshot in time of what's going on, what's an impact, where can I go and utilize those available resources. So I want to say thanks for having me on the call. I know it's a crazy time, and certainly everything's kind of free-flowing at this point, but that would be my advice in terms of the two programs that SBA is pushing. I think are really important to small business owners, and I think will have a huge impact moving forward.
Well, I certainly appreciate your time today. And Cathy, any words of wisdom?
Well, while we were on this call, I received a spreadsheet from the state of Ohio, and it was prepared by America's SBDC organization. And it is a spreadsheet comparing all of these different programs that we talked about today and some other additional programs. So I did forward that to Catherine in your office, Congressman. Hopefully
Great.
You can share that with your constituents, and it will give them a one-place spot where they can look at the different programs and maybe start to weed through it a little bit easier.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. And Marty?
Yeah, Congressman, thanks again for doing the call. I guess my takeaway to folks that are listening in is you don't have to go it alone. I think we're in a position in our organization, and it sounds like a number of organizations, to help. So whether it's the resources we've talked about today or others, there are experts. We've got 10 folks, probably more within our organization, that are just calling through these folks that are filling out our survey, trying to tie them into existing resources. So there's a lot to digest with this challenge, but you don't have to go it alone. So, I would encourage folks on the line to reach out to us individually or go through our websites. Get in touch with folks, because there's a lot of resources out there, and you don't have to kind of go alone. I think we can help tie you in with what's out there.
We're all in this together, that's for sure, Marty. And it's one of those times where I think, as bad as this is, it helps America remind each other that we're all friends and fellow countrymen, and we need to work together. So I appreciate your time. Greg, out in Ashtabula, I know you already had one of the ladies on the call you could probably talk to today.
Yeah. There's well, first I want to thank you very much, Congressman, for putting this together. I think it's extremely valuable, and for inviting me to participate. I know I learned some new things here from fellow panelists. So I appreciate all the information that was provided, and I'm sure it'll be valuable for our local businesses. And I think that's the biggest thing, and Marty said it, which is there's organizations and resources and people here to help small business. So make sure you reach out and utilize those resources. And I talked and touched a little bit about taking the opportunity to start to do some planning if you haven't done that. I'm going to give a shout out to the SBDC because they do have some phenomenal resources to assist you with going through some planning exercises if you're a small business and don't know how to do that or nervous about how to do that. There are some phenomenal resources that can help you through that planning process now. So utilize this time as a means for doing some of that strategic planning to help you now and as you move forward. But thank you again for putting this together and asking me to participate.
Thank you for all the help that you've been giving us out there in Ashtabula. And Karen, I know that you've got the western end of Lake County all buttoned down and helping folks, but any last words of wisdom for folks?
Congressman, we're trying the best that we can. We're working hard, and I think that this is a great service that you're doing for so many members. So I thank you. I think this is just a great resource, and I hope that we're able to do more of these things in the future as we try to trudge through this. At the time that we did our survey several weeks ago, 63% of our members saw that cash flow was their biggest concern, and I know that's even larger then. So these programs that the SBDC has in place and the SBA has in place and the state and the federal government are very, very helpful to our members. I think this is fantastic, these resources. And just want to say that we too have a page on our website at Willoughby Western Lake County Chamber of Commerce, www.wwlcchamber.com. And they can see all the different resources that we're using to direct our members to what they need and anything that they might need from us. And just one last thing on the social distancing. I just want to say that it's so important at this time. People don't really think about it maybe as families. I mean, we're more business oriented, but I just talked to a colleague who said she was struggling with her teenage son who said he was the only one that wasn't able to go to a gathering with his friends because his parents feel so strongly about the social distancing. We all have to be like that, even in our families, because that is how we're going to get through this faster. And that is how business is going to get back to business faster. So that is so critical for everyone. I just can't emphasize that enough.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And I think it's going to change the way we go about greeting each other moving forward. It might be the end of the handshake. But it is one of those things. Well, the only one that will come near me in the house is my dog, so I understand that program. We're distancing ourselves too, but that's an important point. And thank you. It's great. I appreciate all of you, and thanks to all the constituents who took the time to listen to this important informational discussion. If you have any other concerns you'd like to address, you can contact my office by calling toll-free 440-637-8030 or by visiting www.joyce.house.gov. You can also stay on the line and leave your name and address and a message after the tone, and my office will get back to you as quickly as possible. It remains an honor to represent you in Northeast Ohio here in the United States House of Representatives. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Stay well.